Every year, engine companies and Dallas Fire Rescue are required to test their fire hose to ensure that it is in safe and effective working condition. Hose testing is conducted between March 1st and June 30th of every year, and with the exclusion of Station 21, all companies are included in the rotation. Station 21 will conduct their hose testing at their station. Hose testing will be accomplished according to the schedule outlined in SOP 102, Care of Fire Hose. The deputy chiefs are responsible for scheduling companies, and hose testing is to be performed Monday through Friday at the DFR Training Center located at 5000 Dolphin Road. Companies will be scheduled at either 0830 or 1330 hours. Station officers are responsible for ensuring that all numbered hoses assigned to and or stored in their respective stations are properly tested and the necessary records and reports are completed. This does include testing any replacement hose stored at the station. The testing of reserve engines will be coordinated between the deputy and battalion chiefs to ensure that all engines are tested. Stations with a wildland apparatus will also be required to bring those apparatus with them at the time of testing. Engine 8 and Engine 11 are also responsible for testing the fire hose assigned to their company for use in the dart tunnel, which is stored at the DFR maintenance facility. Upon arrival to Dolphin Road, the company officer will retrieve the required hose testing equipment. This is located in the hose testing supply closet located on the north side of the high-rise drill tower and is accessible utilizing the company's Knox box key.
The provided test equipment includes two 5-inch to 2.5-inch reducers, one with a male discharge and one with a female discharge, along with the special 2.5-inch test valve. All spanner wrenches and nozzles will be used from the apparatus equipment inventory.
There is also an inventory log sheet in the equipment closet, and officers should verify that all required equipment is present and accounted for, then write in their company name, date, and time of test. The designated location for hose testing is at the north end of the training facility adjacent to the USAR training rubble pile. This location is remote from the majority of traffic, but is located within the driver training area for recruits. Cones should be placed to block off the test site so recruits will be aware of restricted traffic lanes. In the event that a 3-alarm or greater fire is transmitted during hose testing, the hose test will be immediately stopped and the company will reload all hose back onto the apparatus. As soon as 700 feet of 5-inch hose and 2 crosslays are on the engine, the company will go back in service. Continue reloading the remainder of your hose, but response must not be delayed in order to finish reloading the remaining hose. The company officer is responsible for assuring that the test equipment is connected properly, ensuring the required test pressures are being maintained, and for the overall safety of the entire operation. For testing purposes, hose is divided into 2 categories according to the size of the hose. Category 1 includes the red booster line, 1 3/4, 2.5-inch, and 3-inch diameter hose. Category 2 is the 5-inch. While all Category 1 hose can be tested at the same time, Category 1 and Category 2 hose will not be tested simultaneously. All Category 1 hose will now be tested at 300 psi, including the red booster line and wildland forestry hose. Nozzles must also be tested during this time and can be done concurrently with testing the hose. This will also require officers to record the serial numbers for nozzles on the hose test report. During all hose tests, the hose layout will be straight and without kinks or twists. The hose shall be connected to a discharge that is remote from the pump panel, either the side opposite the hose panel or the rear of the engine. Hoses should never be attached to any discharge at the pump panel or extend over the side of the pump panel. This does include the 1 3/4 pre-connects. Begin by examining all hose while they are still dry to identify any obvious visible damage to the hose or couplings. Consideration should be given to prevent the pump from overheating during the pump test. Typically, cracking the tank-to-pump valve allows for water to be introduced into the pump during hose line operations. However, since water is not flowing from the hose lines, this is not adequate during the hose testing. Slightly opening one nozzle during the test will allow enough water to circulate through the pump to keep it cool. The pump must be protected from overheating to prevent damage to the pump and pump packing. NFPA 1962 indicates, that the initial test pressures for all hoses should begin at 50 psi. Keep in mind that hydrant pressures at the drill tower are roughly 90 psi and engine pressures idle at an additional 80 to 100 psi. Therefore, engines should be out of pump gear to maintain a low pressure on the hose for the initial tests. Once all lines are deployed, open the discharges and fill the hose lines with water. One member will begin walking along the hose to inspect for any leaks, pinholes, seeps, bubbles in the hose jackets, or other noted defects. When leaks are identified, the member will identify the exact location of the leak, circle it, and draw a ring around the hose on each side of the identified damage. This can be done with a permanent marker or a mark-all paint stick. Bear in mind that markers are difficult to use on wet hose. Couplings should also be inspected to ensure that they are not leaking. If leaks around couplings are discovered, annotate the tag as reset coupling and state whether it is the male or female coupling that needs to be serviced. Be sure to identify if it is a problem with the coupling and not simply a bad gasket. If leaking is noticed at the point where the hose enters the coupling must be reset. If the leak is at the connection point between the two couplings, it is more than likely a bad gasket and the gasket must be replaced. Do not forget to note which couplings are leaking at the gasket so that they can be replaced when the hose is broken down to be reloaded. Also ensure to inspect the nozzles to ensure that they are not leaking either at the coupling or the nozzle itself. Once the member has reached the nozzle, they should bleed the air out of the hose lines. This is also a good opportunity to test that the nozzle is in good working condition and operates appropriately. Don't forget to test the fog nozzles to ensure that patterns can be easily adjusted. This initial hose line inspection and nozzle inspection must be performed under low pressure conditions to identify damage to hoses that could potentially rupture if placed under increased pressures. Once all hoses, couplings, and nozzles have been inspected and damage has been identified, close all hose lines, tag and remove the damaged hoses, and reconnect the remaining hose. The engine should now be placed in pump gear and discharges should slowly be reopened. NFPA also indicates that nozzles should be tested at increasing 50 psi increments every 30 seconds, starting from 50 psi. Again, given our idle pressures, this is not possible. Therefore, once the engine is in pump gear, begin the test at either 150 or 200 psi, depending on which pressure you are below. Gradually increase your pressure in 50 psi increments and allow it to run at that pressure for 30 seconds, monitoring your nozzles and hose lines for any new leaks. Once you have reached your maximum test pressure for the hose, 300 psi for Category 1, the pressure must be maintained for 3 minutes. If any new damage or leaks are discovered during this time, the test must be immediately stopped, that section of hose tagged and removed, and the hose test must be restarted. It is not necessary to cycle through the 50 psi increments if restarting the test, but pressure should be slowly increased and the hose tested for a full 3 minutes uninterrupted. After the test pressure has been maintained for 3 minutes, one member will again walk along the hose lines inspecting for any leaks or damage to the hose. Since the hoses are now under increased pressure, they must maintain a distance of at least 15 feet from the hose lines while they are performing this inspection. Again, if damage is noted during this time, pressures must be reduced prior to the member approaching the hose to mark the hose and remove it from the hose line. At no time should a member approach a hose line under high pressure. An uncontrolled ruptured hose line operating at increased pressures has the potential to whip around erratically and inflict serious harm to members near the hose. Due to the potential danger of 5-inch hose bursting and releasing a large volume of water, even under 200 psi, special equipment and testing procedures have been developed. The special 2.5-inch gate valve with a 3/8-inch hole drilled through the internal valve must be used in testing all 5-inch hose. Most 5-inch hose couplings are a 2-piece assembly with Allen head attaching screws. These screws should be checked for tightness before the test begins. If they are visibly loose, the hose will be properly tagged and sent to the maintenance division. Under no circumstance should members attempt to tighten these Allen head screws themselves. Given the current location for hose testing, The 5-inch hose will need to be tested in two 600-foot sections. You will begin dropping your hose near the hydrant on the far north end of the testing area. Keep your apparatus on the inside lane as much as possible to allow room for your second pass. Once you have dropped 600 feet, break your connection, return to the starting point, and unload the remainder of your hose. The following procedures will have to be performed on both hose lines. Connect the special testing valve to one of your 2.5-inch discharges. Connect a 50-foot section of 3-inch hose to the testing valve. Connect the 3-inch hose to the 2.5-inch to 5-inch reducers. Connect the 5-inch supply hose to the adapter, ensuring that the hose is fully deployed with no twists or kinks. Connect the final 5-inch to 2.5-inch adapters with the nozzles to the other end of the hose. With the nozzle open the appropriate discharge to begin filling the 5-inch hose with water. As soon as water reaches the nozzle, move the test valve to the closed position. Once all air has been bled from the lines, close the nozzle, and with all members a safe distance from the hose, gradually increase the pressure on the line to the test pressure of 200 psi. Remember, failure to close the special test gate valve prior to increasing the pressure may rupture the 5-inch hose or damage the couplings. This could result in serious personal injury and/or property damage. The small 3/8-inch hole will allow the pressure inside the hose to maintain 200 psi, but will restrict the volume of water in the event that the hose bursts. As with Category 1 hose, the pressure should be maintained for 3 minutes, and one member should walk along the line to mark any pinholes, leaks, or damage identified during the inspection. Remember to mark the location of the pinholes as well as drawing a circle around the circumference of the hose for the shop to easily locate the damage. Once you have completed your hose testing, be sure to return all equipment to the storage locker. Ensure that all testing equipment is present and accounted for at the time your test was completed and initial the log sheet. The company officer supervising the test must ensure that all testing is accurately recorded. They will complete and promptly send the DFR Form 125 Annual Hose Test Report to the Maintenance Division. This form will now be filled out on the station computer and emailed to maintenance. A downloadable copy of the form will be available with this presentation, and a copy will be emailed to all stations. When completing the form, ensure that the serial numbers are taken directly from the hose coupling and not the company record book. Double-check any discrepancies between coupling numbers and company records and resolve any differences prior to submitting the form, and enter your test results in the company record book. Log the current serial numbers and place an X in the box that indicates if the hose has passed or failed the test. If the hose did fail a test, indicate on the form the reason for the failure and annotate if it has been sent into the shop for repairs. While not the most exciting or enjoyable task in the fire service, regular and accurate inspection of equipment affords the opportunity to identify defective equipment before it creates a problem on the fire ground. Thank you for your time, and remember, be safe, be smart, and never stop learning.